Well, hello. My name's Natalie. This is Bec.
Hello.
Welcome to D1DLC Games Club. We are totally taking on any names that you might have. Suggest if you have any ideas, let us know.
Please do. Please do.
So this will be a new thing we're doing with D1DLC where we are discussing a game each month, and this month we are talking about Fee. So you guys might have seen this game around. It's a game by Ubisoft. They're trying to move into the indie space, and they've released this game on a few different platforms. So I played it on the PlayStation 4. And what did you play it on?
I picked mine up on the Wii. It was only. I was happy to know that it was priced the same for the PlayStation platform as it was for the Wii, which was really nice.
Yeah, because don't have to worry about the Nintendo tax.
No Nintendo tax. Yes. Otherwise, probably would have played it on a console as well. But in the end, it was a really good game to have handy on the Wii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it was on Origin as well for PC. But I am allergic to that, so thankfully I could get it on other things.
I was pretty happy not to have to use that as well. For sure.
I guess we can talk a little bit about what we thought about the game. As we go through, just talk a bit more in depth about different things we liked and didn't like. So if you're not familiar with the game, it's a platformer action adventure kind of game. My brain kept bringing similes back to like Spyro and Croc, like way old school games for me, but I'm not sure if there was any games that this brought to mind for you.
Not specifically, I don't think. I found it interesting, one of the descriptions I read, that it was like a puzzle.
Oh, puzzle platformer
as well. Yeah.
I guess there was little puzzle bits in it.
Yeah. Probably not enough for me to
call it a puzzle game.
I don't think so. No.
Beautiful. So, the reason why it's called Fee is because you are a little character, which is called a Fee, which you find out at the end of the game. So that's a spoiler. But the whole game was just going like, what? Why is it called Fee? I don't understand. I'm saving you that stress. So I want to say like a little upright porcupine. What are those things at the zoo that like put
like a meerkat?
Yeah, kind of like a meerkat.
With a Sonic the Hedgehog haircut.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you just start adventuring at the beginning of the game. You follow this deer around through some areas. And one of the main mechanics of the game is that you sing to different things. So sing to animals and plants. And if you get the right song or the right frequency of the song, then they'll do what you want.
Kind of form a connection, don't you, definitely to the other animals. With the interaction with the in-game items, it's kind of just a little, like a mini tune, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it will give you something.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the singing, I guess we were talking about this a little bit earlier with how you interact with animals and plants. You have to match the frequency.
Yes.
So for me with the PlayStation, I just had to hold down the trigger button to the right depth to match the frequency of the song, which enabled the connection with the animal or the plant. But you were talking about with the Switch, it was a bit different.
I was. With the Switch, you have the option of using, that's the only motion control you get with this game. And I had it on for probably about 2.5 seconds. I left it on when I realised that was an option in the game. And the very first creature probably that I spoke to, it's kind of the same as maybe in Zelda where you might tilt to aim.
Yeah.
So you are moving the Switch forwards or backwards. I think the motion sensors are in the bottom.
Oh, okay.
So that's literally what you're doing to make the connection with the other creature, to make that frequency go up and down. So I found in the end that it just completely breaks the visual connection you have with the game. So I found, maybe it was how I was sitting to play or what, I'm not sure, but I found that I was just tilting the Switch completely towards myself. And there was no visual left for me anymore at all. So literally no point.
That's not great, like considering the Switch is, a little bit about the novelty of the motion controls and stuff like that. It's a bit sad to lose that.
It is. And even with other games, Mario and Zelda, I left it on and didn't necessarily use it a lot, but this one I turned it off straight away. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it was good. They had the option to be able to switch it to something else.
I was glad for that.
Yeah, and I found the same thing on the PlayStation, so I had a look through the menus after I finished the game, and there was heaps of options for changing control styles and that kind of stuff. So if you didn't like it, there was definitely other options there, which was good. Yeah, so while we're talking about the songs, I guess the main storyline of the game is that you're saving the forest world.
Yes.
By going around and making connections with the animals and the plants, and by doing that, you are overcoming these... I don't even know how to describe them. They reminded me of Mike from Monsters, Inc.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
really
so
do.
like this like long, tall black creature with like a giant eyeball up here, but you know, a lot more ominous than Mike.
Yeah. I don't know if they were or not, but they gave me the alien feel a little bit. I don't know. That's possibly because of the way you see some of the story as well.
Yeah. So that was one thing I think we both had an issue with about this game as far as how the story was told. So I'm used to kind of abstract storytelling. So if you look at like Journey or Rhyme or those sorts of games, like you'll uncover something and there'll be like a wall panel where they'll explain things. The storytelling in this was a bit different. I don't know if you want to talk about how they
yes. So to start with, you are like very much just introduced to the world, and I think the mechanics of the world and the animals and creatures and how to communicate with them. Eventually you'll come to a point where they're telling you the story, or the overarching story of the baddies versus the forest, where you essentially just pick up a little gem and you take on the vision, I guess, of the baddies. Which I kind of like. Like, I liked that was a different way of telling of introducing what was happening in the world. As that happens, you move the character that you're in, so you can see through their eyes as to what's happening in the story, which I thought was a really good idea, except that it wasn't super explanatory as far as exactly how far or what you had to do.
Yeah, I found those sequences really frustrating because you take, like, I think it's like a droplet or a gem or something, you eat it, and then it takes you into this first person perspective of being inside one of the mic things, and you control what way you're walking around and you control your vision, but you can't interact with anything. And you know, a lot of the scenes, like, they're hurting an animal or hurting a plant or doing something you don't like, and you have no autonomy. You're just like, I can walk toward that situation, I can't stop it or do anything. And I think even over the course of the game, it did explain a little bit, but I was still going, I don't know what's going on.
No, it's not necessarily clear either why you're seeing that visual. Like, to start with, it's not really clear, and then I discovered that that's how they're introducing us to that part of the story, but it's also not super clear that you just need to be in that moment and see what's happening, and then you're out of the moment.
I didn't feel like that gave me any insight into, when I went back to being me, of how I might continue with my part of the story. Like, it doesn't change the way you interact with anything or do anything. Like, I'm very used to, like, games where you find out the motives of the bad guys and you're like, I won't be so mean to them, or I'll do this thing because that's going to change the story. But this was just like, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing then.
It gave me no empathy for, it didn't change my opinion of, or nothing. It probably, like, you made me want to just go, once I realised how to get through that and finish the cutscene, that it made me really want to just skip past seeing all the bad stuff, because I'm a bit of an emotional creature like that. And
like,
if I can, then I'm like, oh, okay, that's happening, let's get out of here now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing that was really cool with the game was the art design.
I did enjoy.
So it uses a lot of, like, sharp shadows and darkness and that kind of stuff, but then things are highlighted with really, like, bright pop colours.
Neon.
So one of the features we're talking about is the singing with the animals, and every animal will kind of have their colour.
Yes, to match their frequency.
Yeah. So your character actually has like spines on it that will change colour depending on what song you've got selected. So I thought that was really cool. But when you're talking about going into the story with the bad guys or wherever you enter a bad guy area, everything goes like red and orange and a lot more stark, and so they did a good job with that of like you're adventuring versus here's a bad guy area and you need to deal with that. One thing that took me a little bit of time to get used to was that even though you went around bad guys, you were still potentially in danger because some of the native animals would just like eat you. Like if you fall in water, you get eaten. So don't do that.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah. The world itself I did find expansive, which I think is good. But I did find I thought it was a little bit wasted for me because there wasn't much exploration value.
Yeah, so just not enough like things to, I mean, for me, having things to collect in the environment is normally what spurs me to go like Lara Croft. There's, go to a cave and you get unlockable stuff, whatever. Yep. But with this, it was like, not much. Yeah. Not much point. And I mean, there are collectibles throughout the game, so you do unlock skills as you go by collecting these gems. So there is value in exploring. There is those. But I found I didn't do much extra exploring. I just kind of stayed on the path of the game and could finish it relatively easily with the skills and stuff they gave me.
Same. Yeah. I think by the time I finished the game, there were still maybe 2 or 3 that I hadn't unlocked. One of them I know I unlocked after the game just by going back and exploring and picking up the gems that unlocked those skills. But I kind of felt at the end of the game that that's the only reason to be back and exploring the world. So
yeah, I found it very strange because they roll the credits and then they dump you back in the world and you're like, is this like a new game plus? Am I meant to be doing something? Is this? But I think they're just letting you go back and retrack if you want to and unlock those other skills. One of the game mechanics I found really frustrating is the first skill you unlock is to climb trees. Yep. So you're going up the tree and I'm so used to pointing in a direction and then for the climb it was X for me. So I'm pressing X to jump up the tree. But in my head I was thinking I'm going up, so I should be pushing forward. So what kept happening to me is I'd be going X, and I'd just jump off the tree.
Because I'm a bit of a button masher too. So I would just button, and exactly the same. Jump off the tree, possibly in the wrong direction. Yeah,
right into where all the bad guys are.
Yeah. So I didn't necessarily hate it as a mechanic for getting up the tree, but being that button masher and...
Yeah, and I think... I don't know how they could have done it better. There's a glide or flying mechanic that you unlock, and quite often I found when you initiate the glide, to get where you want to go, you have to turn and face the camera, and the camera didn't necessarily switch as fast as I would like it to be behind the camera the whole time. So you're flying into yourself and you're trying to get to a ledge that's this way and you can't get there, and it's like... I thought it had a really big turning circle too, so it was kind of like a really wide U-turn to try and get there, which made it extra difficult.
And it made me overshoot a lot of things as well.
I was like, there we go. Damn it. So people can probably tell from our discussion of how general feelings about the game. The longer time has gone on, I've definitely found myself thinking about it and being frustrated.
I don't think you'd finished it when we last spoke about the game either.
Yeah, so I think last time Bec and I got together, I was talking about this part in the game where you get to a ledge and there was a skill that I hadn't unlocked yet. But there was a giant, what you'll find is as you go through, there's stones that have instructions or a bit of story on them. So I had a look at that, went, okay, I have to like jump on these puff things, they're easy. And I kept jumping and the puff thing would do anything, and this is because I didn't have a skill yet, but I was there for about 20 minutes trying to get this to work, and I eventually just went that's what I haven't spoken about. So quite early, after you learn one of the first songs, you unlock the ability to sing to a bird, that's meant to point you in the right direction to go. Now, I love this kind of mechanic in games.
Me too.
Like, been playing Monster Hunter recently where you've got these like fireflies that light the way. So, you know, really good mechanic, especially for me. I'm terrible with maps and stuff.
Navigationally challenged.
I found a fair few times the bird was like, oh yeah, just go and do this thing that I couldn't physically do yet, or it just wasn't the right direction for what I could do.
Which would potentially happen, and it would tell you to go in a direction, even considering you might not have had the frequency or the singing level to activate that little
thing. Yeah,
assisting mechanic to get you where the bird was going.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, this was at times like, throw down the controller, I'm going to go walk away and come back later. So this is, I think, touted to be like a 4-5 hour game.
Yes.
And it took me about 12 hours to play it. I don't think you took quite as long, though. I think
possibly not. I don't think.
Yeah.
I found for the start of the game, for me, learning or not having that exploration in the world, I quite quickly just went to following the storyline. So for a long time there, I kind of just went, okay, bird, show me what to do. When did that? Okay, bird, show me what to do. Went and did that. So it was really linear for me for quite a while. Right or wrong, I'm not really sure. I kind of wish there was more exploration, like you mentioned in Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
So I could enjoy the world a lot more, because I thought it was a really pretty game to play.
Yeah, beautiful game. Yeah.
Like, I liked to be immersed in that world, but there wasn't much to be immersed in.
Yeah.
So that cut down some of the gameplay for me. I didn't find myself as invested in the story as I wanted to be either, because I found it to be, I don't know if abstract is the right word, but I didn't quite understand what was happening.
Yeah.
Whether somebody else had that experience or not, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe if anybody's played it, they can explain their experience. I had the same thing with the story. I got to the end and I was like, well, like, I understand what happened, but I don't, that why question. Like, I'm used to understanding why the bad guy's doing that thing. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And none of that. I mean,
correct.
It's just meant to be simple, I guess, because you're playing a little animal, and the actual gameplay itself is quite simple. But missing that depth when it came to the story was could have been better.
That was probably the thing for me that in the end just made me better able to very quickly finish the game.
Yeah.
I'm definitely the kind of person who can lose myself for many, many hours in a game.
Yeah.
It was a little bit surprising that I did finish it.
Yeah, because you've been playing through Horizon recently, and I think you're saying you have many, many hours in that game.
Hours. Zelda, I think I'm 200 plus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just, definitely not the depth in this. I mean, not that it sounds like it was made for that.
It wasn't, no, that is
it's designed to be
That's
a short
true.
game. So good if you want a short experience.
Yep. And to be fair, even though I still didn't quite grasp the whole storytelling and the story, I've got it on the Switch now, so probably I'll go back eventually and have another go, another playthrough.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the length of the game that it is, it's really probably good for when you go on a trip or something interstate. You could, like, finish it on the flight there, flight there.
Yeah. Yep.
Which would be, it's good. I mean, that's something that the Switch is amazing for. Yes. Yeah, and I need to get one.
I love it. It's the best thing I brought last year.
Very, very cool. So I think probably for me overall, I don't think I could recommend the game at the price point that it was. That's probably the sticking point for me, because if you like platformers and you find yourself really engaged with the environment, like it's pretty and the sound effects are really nice and all that kind of stuff, this might be the game for you. And especially if you don't have issues with platforming like me. I'm very much like Jake. Platforming, I'm not so good at that thing. I don't really want to be doing it, but I could definitely see people that liked those genres and were maybe a bit better at that gameplay mechanic getting into it. But it was $30, which for the length of game that it was, I personally can't recommend people getting it unless you like all those things I just described.
I kind of feel the same. I don't know how I feel about having paid $30 for it. It's very pretty, and I'm glad I finished the game. I think finishing the game, it finished strong for me. 3/4 into the game, I was very just middle of the road about the whole thing. So I was definitely glad to have got to the end and have that resolved a little bit further for me. If I would recommend it to somebody, but with a lower price tag.
Yeah. So maybe when it's on sale.
Yeah.
I mean, suspecting that it's on Origin as well. If anybody's got the Origin Club thing that they've got, I mean, I would probably just play it even for the first little bit to see if you like it. If you're getting it as part of your Origin, I can't remember what that's called. They've got a membership thing where you get all of the games for that if you pay their monthly fee. So definitely if you've got getting it for free, definitely have a go.
I would say so.
And see if you like the start of it, because the beginning of it is probably pretty fair way to gauging whether you'll like the rest of it. Pretty similar all the way through.
Yeah.
It's hard for me because there are some elements of the game that were so charming, but because I had all that frustration with it, I just can't.
You're right. It was charming is probably a really good way to describe it too, and I had a lot of fun watching the little guy as he interacted with the world and the animals, and the music is stunning. Yeah, it's a nice environment to be in.
That being said, though, right at the beginning of the game, one of his songs is that he can cry, like there was this like sound effect in the game near the beginning. I didn't hear it later in the game where you hear a baby cry, like it's that kind of sound, and I was like, why is there a baby crying? That put me off. I don't know if it was meant to be a bit unsettling, because there certainly were elements to it, like not at all horror or thriller suspense kind of unsettling, but just that little bit like things aren't quite right.
Yes. And I think the character you play is supposed to be quite the young animal, Junior, as well. Yeah. It did worry me a little bit as well, like I didn't really want to have too much of an emotional investment in it in case something went wrong, and particularly considering I couldn't connect to the story and I was disconnected from the gameplay and what I was doing for a point too, just because I was a bit lost at times. So all of those things not quite gelling made me not commit 100%. So
oh well, I think that's probably all we want to talk about about Fee. So thank you very much for joining us for this discussion of Fee. So I guess
maiden voyage.
Yeah, well absolutely. So if you like it, please wherever you find this, have a comment, give it a like, let us know what you thought about Fee, if you've played it or if you're going to play it now or not, based on what we've told you. Hopefully we haven't put anybody off that loves platforming. If you love platforming, please
still play.
Still
play and let us know what you think, because somebody might be able to explain the story better to me. Yes. For sure. Let me know what I missed.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you very much, and thank you, Bec.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
It's going to be awesome.